Linda Fox in the PhocusWire studio, and I'm with Dave Stephenson of Airbnb. Welcome, Dave. Great to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me, Linda.
We've got so much to talk about here, so much going on with Airbnb. So let's start with the ancillary side of things. So you launched experiences in the summer, and you also launched services in the summer. Q3 results, nearly half of experiences are unrelated to accommodations. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, that was surprising. I mean, we are focused on making the trip better by expanding into experiences and services in addition to our homes and hotels, making sure that all works really well. So the fact that we had over 50% that came from a different trip that they were on to Airbnb, I think it's really encouraging. It just shows that people are excited about what we're offering, and it's a great way to introduce people to Airbnb that have never used us before.
And equally on services, 10% had booked services, had never booked an Airbnb.
Yeah,
You see, again, when you stop to think, it's absolutely what you wanted in terms of travel app of everything, right? But I guess my question is, how do you sort of keep that momentum going? How do you really get people to think of Airbnb as so much wider ecosystem?
I think it's going to take some time, but it's super encouraging. Like you said, the first results that we've seen, we're focused on making the existing trip better, kind of attaching these experiences and services to existing experiences. When you book your stay, we're making it really easy to kind of add these things to your itinerary, put them all in one place. That's where we're focused. That's even where our advertising is focused.
Yeah.
But then the fact that more people are coming to it and finding this shows that they demand this, that these service and experiences are things that people really want. They're not easy to find. We're able to show the best quality of these kinds of service and experiences, so the way we're merchandising them is working really well. I don't know, it's early days, but I'm really excited about the progress we've made so far.
I think Brian has said sort of 3 to 5 years to really kind of bed them down, hasn't he?
Yeah, it takes some time, right? I mean, we're in 220 countries and regions around the world. You need to get to kind of a critical mass in each one of those. So it takes some time, but the early signals are super strong.
I noticed a bit of a ramp in your marketing Q3 versus Q3 last year, and I'm assuming that is to do with the kind of campaign that you had around Paris and the ancillaries there and the originals. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, a lot of the marketing now has been, now you can Airbnb more than Airbnb.
Yeah.
And so just identifying, like, Airbnb is not just about the home. I mean, it's really about the trip. It's about all the experiences that you can have in the community that you're traveling to. We want these authentic experiences, these authentic stays, to get to a sense of the place. And so that's where you're seeing our advertising kind of expanding the definition of what it means to be in an Airbnb.
Brian's always been proud of the kind of word of mouth and the viral kind of nature of Airbnb and what you've been able to achieve. And obviously now with that ramp, is that going to have to continue for the foreseeable future as you get these businesses off the ground?
Well, we're really proud of it, right? More than 90% of our traffic remains to be free or direct or unpaid. And so we are quite proud of that. We have one brand to kind of feed. It's Airbnb. We're not trying to feed a number of different brands. And so as we continue to add these kind of service experiences, we do need to expand what it means to be part of Airbnb.
Yeah.
And over time, we're going to be doing things like adding kind of a loyalty program to Airbnb at the right time, now that we have all of these additional offerings, also including hotels, right, on Airbnb. So we tie all these things together, and I think that we can continue to have people think about us first as an authentic way to travel, as a way to experience the place that you're going in a better and different way. And so I think we'll continue to remain very direct traffic oriented.
The loyalty program is interesting, isn't it? It's been a long time coming. And so is that because, Brian and, the team has never felt that it's quite the right time, or is it because the dynamic has changed as the business have evolved? I mean, what's the sort of thinking behind that?
I don't think we were ready. If it was just homes, having a loyalty program for just homes, we don't think is really
enough of a proposition.
Yeah, it's not enough of a proposition. I think now that we have this platform and extending in many more offerings, being able to tie those all together, then there's a reason for it. And so I think now we are ready for thinking about a loyalty program in a different way.
Now, I'm presuming that the end game is to extend the sort of basket size of your average customer once as these new lines of business are bedded down. But how easy is it to plug this content in on the back end? Because essentially it's fragmented content. It's a hairdresser there and a restaurant there or a chef there. How easy is it to plug it in?
Well, I'd also put it a little bit different. I think the end game is to make a great guest experience, like just that you can have, the best experience, the best home, the best service, all in one place at Airbnb. And if we do that really well, then we can keep bringing people back. And you're right, it is hard. This is what the big work was to launch here in this last May, was to basically rebuild the tech stack. We did not have the capability to actually layer on all of these different services until we did in May. And now we have the building blocks and we can keep adding things. So that's why you're seeing us do things like test with Instacart grocery delivery
that's super interesting.
in Los Angeles. But we weren't able to do that prior to us kind of rebuilding the tech platform and giving us that capability. So now we're ready for that expansion.
And in rebuilding, does that mean that you give all those small providers the ability to onboard their service similar that you would give a host the ability to onboard a service?
Exactly. Yeah. And many of the different providers have different needs, right? The way in which you might schedule a massage therapist and their needs can be very different than what you might need to do for a chef and the way in which they communicate. Yeah. And then the way in which you do an experience, where we've added a lot of social features to experiences that are also differentiated versus what others are doing, so that you can communicate with the host ahead of time and understand exactly what to expect on your experience. And then when you connect with people on the trip in your experience, you can connect with them later if you want to and keep in touch, and you can share photos. And so there are a lot of these things that we're kind of building in that can expand what we're offering and the experience that people are able to get on Airbnb.
Great. Okay. Let's talk about, Brian talks about this new audience to Airbnb, and he's really bullish about the whole opportunity there. And what's interesting is that the wider industry hasn't really grasped that opportunity yet. Why is that? Is it because it's really hard, because it's really fragmented, because it's only now that the professionalization of sort of short-term rental is coming up? And what's your thinking there?
I just think that now is the time for us to be able to kind of expand into these other offerings. I joined Airbnb back in 2019 when we were expanding into new service offerings. In the pandemic, we had to kind of shrink it all down, and we've only focused on homes.
Right.
Now, as we kind of expand into these other things, we can be more relevant to more people. I mean, we've always been from budget to luxe and everything in between, but it's all about the home. And now when we can extend to these other offerings, it just gives more reason for people to come to us kind of directly and be able to service them.
So hotels obviously is the other new kind of addition to the platform, although there was talk about it a couple of years back. I think it was sort of a step into it, but clearly now bigger step in. And, the team talks about it being a very different customer. So I'm curious to know, what kind of signals and behaviors are you seeing that tells you that it's a very different customer?
Yeah, so we acquired Hotel Tonight back in 2019.
Right.
We have thousands of hotels on Airbnb today all around the world. The reality is this is not a great experience. And I don't necessarily think it's always a different customer. I think it's often the same customer with a different use case.
Okay.
Like if it might be, if I'm traveling on business for one night, the hotel may be exactly the right thing to do. Or maybe if you're traveling with your spouse on a special occasion, you need to go to a resort. That could be a hotel. But when you're with a family and you're going for Thanksgiving and you want to be able to cook a great Thanksgiving meal, it's going to be better in a home. You can be that same person with different use cases. And right now what happens is we may not have a use case for you, and a customer is going to have to go someplace else to get that hotel. Okay. And so now what we can do is bring the best hotels, an Airbnb equivalent hotel onto Airbnb. And so we are partnering with thousands of independent hotels, ones that we think give a great hosted experience, great guest experience, that are of the place, that have a sense of the neighborhood or the city or the place that they're in. And we're going to be able to bring those on. And then for the right kind of stay, even if it's the same person, now they can book a great hotel on Airbnb.
So what's the sort of process of, signing them up, validating that they are going to provide that sort of Airbnb brand experience, that they are, their culture is in keeping with what you're offering? How does that work?
Yeah, well, we have a team of people all around the world that actually talk to the hotel owners and actually are able to meet with many of them and actually walk into them. And hotels are also known. There are sources of information about the best quality hotels.
You can mystery shop, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're known. It's much easier actually to identify the best quality hotel than the 8 million homes that we have have around the world. So we know this muscle, we have this muscle, we're just applying it to hotels in a different way. And then what we're doing is we're bringing kind of the magic of Airbnb to merchandise these hotels, show the best of them. So the way in which the images show up, the way in which the hotels are described, the way in which you're able to understand the benefits of a specific hotel, we think is differentiated and better. And we do it alongside all of our other homes, and we feature at the right time. And so if you're searching in New York for one night stay for 2 people, we'll suggest a filter that you should probably best in a hotel.
Look at a hotel.
Here are the hotels, and let's filter them down. So
now, I know that you announced that you were sort of signing on kind of some of the cities where there were certain constraints around short-term rentals, so Madrid and I think Paris. How quickly can you sort of ramp up getting all those hotels on board, whether that be those cities or wider?
Yeah, we're focused. The product right now is Madrid, New York, and LA, but we can scale this quite quickly. Okay. I mean, there's there's several hundred cities in the world that make up a material part of the overall business, and we have the muscle. Again, we've built a muscle to acquire 8 million homes. To acquire tens of thousands of hotels is important, hard work, but it's not something that out of our realm of our capability. I think we're fully capable of doing it.
I want to talk about market expansion a bit. Latin America is one of the destinations. How do you, again, bring the sort of, everything you've talked about in terms of the Airbnb kind of brand experience to the market and still keep the sort of local flavor?
Well, I think it's super important, is that showing up local. Sometimes there are times that companies show up too much as a San Francisco tech company, right, and not enough as a local company. And this is what we're finding, is that when we show up locally and we provide simple things, local payment methods. Right. Maybe we'll do in Brazil, we'll have installment payments has been a great unlock. You go to Korea and you want to use Naver Maps. They don't have Google Maps, so you need a different kind of mapping solution, or Naver login and pay. You end up in Japan and you want to make sure you have ryokans and you understand where the closest onsen is. Like showing up locally and being relevant, then it becomes for you. When you're a customer, then you're like, oh, this is for me. This is personalization. This is comfort.
I guess authentic as well, hopefully.
I love that word. Yeah, it's an authentic experience. And so this is what we're finding, is when we show up authentically locally with the things that matter for those locals, we're able to grow, be more meaningful to them, have a better experience, and therefore grow faster. And then that's why in the earnings results we talked about these growth markets is growing at twice the rate of our kind of core markets. So core markets are growing really, really well. But by unlocking this local flavor in countries around the world, it's enabling us to just be more relevant.
Does that, applying that local flavor, does that also apply to, as you think about expanding, again, services and experiences to those markets? Do you have to also think about doing that differently? Because, again, people react to different things in a different way.
Love the question. So an example that we're seeing for experiences are when you go to Paris, the first time traveler to Paris, no matter who they are, guess what? They're going to want to go see the Eiffel Tower and they want to see the Louvre. But when they're on the second trip, they might want to see the more unique pastry chef, and maybe they want to go to a unique neighborhood in the Marais. Well, that we were in a lot of our experiences launches, we were featuring a lot of those super unique experiences, just amazing things. But when we show those to a first-time traveler, they don't care. They really want to go see the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre. So what we're actually doing is merchandising better for the first-time traveler, the things that they want to go see. And then we're also able to merchandise for the second or third-time traveler. And then this is even where locals are coming in. We're seeing a substantial percentage of our bookings in Paris are local Parisians actually taking advantage of these really unique, amazing experiences. And so I think this is where personalization comes in. I think this is where using AI in the future to better match up the personalized needs of a user to the offerings you have, so that when you're the first-time Paris traveler, we're going to show you the Eiffel Tower, and when you're the local Parisian, we're going to show you the little speakeasy in this one neighborhood that you maybe never even knew existed before. And
I mean, presumably, underneath all that, having that intent data, the signals, so that you can, know exactly what they want and at what stage they are, and how many times they've visited Paris.
It's super exciting.
Now, Brian was quite precise about, not being sort of the readiness in terms of integrating with the AI platforms, which is super interesting. So rather than talking about that, can you just talk a little bit about where you are seeing impact internally with AI?
Yeah, I mean, people are using AI a lot for kind of top of funnel inspiration.
Yeah.
And then clearly people are trying to do some searching and use AI to book. I think it still has just not been ready for prime time. What we've been using a lot of AI for is some of the simpler things like customer service. We're seeing great adoption. A lot of companies are doing it. But I don't want to downplay the importance of doing that really well. Helps make the experience better. I think over time, we're going to see more of this, like I just talked about, more personalization. The more we understand about you and your trip needs, the better we can kind of connect it. And I think Airbnb uniquely benefits from it because we just have a tougher problem, right? We have 8 million homes from budget to luxe. How do you find the right home for you for the right trip? That's not trivial. It's not like you're just trying to do a simple search on a hotel. And then as we add services and experiences put all together, I think AI is going to really help us in this. So.
Just want to talk a little bit about the terms and conditions. There's the 15% service fee, and you even described it as a meaningful change, and you talked about supporting your hosts, and you did come up across a lot of criticism on social media platforms. That they talked about you abandoning the community model. So what can you say that says, no, we didn't abandon community model?
I think we just needed some clarity. Too many guests were confused about what our fees are and get surprised by the additional fees that we would put on top of the initial fees from the hosts. And too many hosts didn't understand what a guest is paying. It wasn't transparent, so what their fees are. And there are many hosts that, if they are on multiple platforms, are having different fees from different platforms and therefore having confusing prices. This simplifies all that, makes it much more transparent. I think it's much more host-friendly because it's very simple and knowable, and then they know what to provide to a guest. It's guest-friendly because the guest is very transparent in what they're getting. So far, I'm really happy with the execution. There's some minor criticism, but overall it's actually been really well received, and we'll continue to kind of be rolling this out across the globe.
So correct me if I'm wrong, it does mean that they end up paying more.
No.
It doesn't?
No, it doesn't. So the transition shows them how to adjust their prices appropriately so that the guest pays the same, it's effectively the same fee.
Okay.
It's just the way, instead of being
sliced and diced differently.
Instead of being 3% kind of host fee
and
plus a
then
12%. Airbnb fee, it's the 15.5% fee to the host. And then the tool that we've built walks them through the process to make it neutral to the host.
So they then just work it into their gross
price. Working the price, exactly. Yeah. And then it's also, like I said, aligned with how they might be pricing on other platforms as well, which is really good because sometimes there was price differences even driven by the difference in our fee structure. So it simplifies for everybody. It's really a win-win all the way around.
Just want to wrap up here. It was really exciting for us as journalists when Brian talked about the potential for these, up to 5 new lines of business, and obviously you've launched 2 of them. Again, great fanfare there. I know you're not going to tell me what more is on the cards, but I would be really interested to know what is the sort of thought process to coming up with another business line? What are you doing?
Well, we think about business lines as opportunities to provide guests something that they need very adjacent to our existing products. That's why we expand to experiences, services closely adjacent, hotels closely adjacent, things, insurance has actually been quite a good, strong kind of business driver too. These are all actually incredibly guest friendly, and guess what? They're great businesses. And when we can find that secret sauce and put them all together, that's kind of the win-win-win. I mean, I think we've been very intentional and slow in our approach to adding some of these because we're not just trying to slap on, flights to the end of Airbnb.
Sure.
We're trying to make sure that the experience we're giving is unique and differentiated and fits with our brand and what people are expecting from us. So, that's kind of the way we think about these businesses.
All right, Dave, thanks so much for joining us.
Linda, so great to talk to you today.
Thanks again.
Bye.